Welcoming its first residents in 1987, Shenandoah Valley, Westminster, Canterbury, and Winchester, Virginia, set the scene for the warm, personal atmosphere that has only been enhanced with time. With an ultimate focus on resident comfort, a variety of floor plans provides luxurious, carefree senior living for independent spirits. Their accommodations start with a studio apartment of 485 square feet, up to a cottage or apartment of close to 2,000 square feet. All units feature the same access to superior senior living amenities for a maintenance-free lifestyle. Their life care program provides a full continuum of care right on campus, all under one roof. For more information, go to svwc.org. That's svwc.org. Or call 540-665-5914. That's 540-665-5914. Shenandoah Valley, Westminster, Canterbury, Winchester, Virginia.
Hello and welcome to the Valley Today. I am your host, Janet Michael. It is the Valley Business Today, and I am pretty excited because Sally Michaels is here from the Frederick County EDA, but we are going full on wow. Because it's over. And we can go, wow, because we both survived it. You more so than me. I was only there one day. But this is a lot of work for you and the whole team, because you have a whole team that puts the wow together. So kudos to you for being upright.
Absolutely. So we went out with a bang.
Yes.
And it is a partnership. It's the Consortium out of Lord Fairfax Community College. So the CTE Consortium, Barrett Machine, Winchester EDA, Frederick EDA, and the Regional Commission.
But there still needs to be like 100 more of you because it's a lot of work.
We never have enough volunteers to help make it run.
So there you go. People that are listening right now, go ahead and put on your calendar mid-October 2019. You got some free time in the middle of the week. This is something to do. So tell me, first of all, what is WOW? For somebody who, we joked before we turned on the mics about if you've been living under a rock. So if somebody's been living under a rock, what is WOW?
I really did write that on my paper. Have you been living under a rock? It was in both newspapers. It was on the radio. It was on the local news. We have been to every civic organization up and down the highway.
The kids got information that was being sent home from school with them.
Yeah. So you're living under a rock if you haven't heard about WOW, which is the Worlds of Work, plural, Worlds of Work. And that is 10 work worlds that we put together for 7th graders in 7 districts. And they come and explore. Job demonstrative, hands-on. They dig in, get dirty, touch, smell, taste sometimes, and figure it out for themselves. But it's all about that first exposure. For a lot of them, it's the first exposure, all about the possibilities.
Well, and that's a big deal. I mean, I remember when you came and we were talking about this last year. Last year was my first experience at WOW. And I remember thinking, 7th grade? Really? That seems so young. But that's not the case.
Well, what's pleasant, so think about last week and last year, this age group, this is where you light the fire. They are eager. They are interested. They're going to ask you questions. They're curious. So it's a great age group for that, but we're required to. It's not just a warm fuzzy. That's not why we're doing it. The Virginia Assembly has a mandate that by 7th grade, their spring year, 7th grade, they have got to have a plan as far as studies or career. Which way am I going?
Okay. Well, and that makes sense. And we were talking too before we came into the studio that sometimes it doesn't even have to be this is what I want to do. These kinds of events can let kids know this is not what I want to do and eliminate something from them so they don't spend a lot of time. They don't spend a lot of energy and classwork and college and money and everything else to realize, wow, this is not at all what I wanted to do when I grew up.
Right. No. Mom and dad, cha-ching. We do not want them wasting your money.
Yeah.
They will change courses, right? But if they absolutely do not like something, wouldn't you rather them find out now?
Yeah.
And 7th grade, I mean, they've got just a few years left of electives. If you don't get in 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, sometimes it's only offered once a year, those electives. So you're missing out if you're not getting into those electives. So parents, please encourage your kids to do their electives, but also explore. You can go to explorethewow.com. You can see the worlds, and the booklet is online. It talks about salaries. We break it down hourly, what type of skills are required, what type of education is required. let them know now. Let them find out now, because if they don't like it, and I love to watch the health science side of the arena.
Oh, yeah, those kids were fascinated.
Or disgusted.
Ugh. Yeah.
Right. And that's the quickest way, right? That world, it's like oh, absolutely, I want to touch it, or oh, my God, get me out of here. And that's okay. We want them to know that now, not after years of medical school.
And that makes sense. That makes complete sense. And a lot of kids, and parents, I think to a certain degree, don't know what they don't know. I mean, some of us have had the job that we've always had, or we always knew in some way what it is we wanted to do, but they don't realize what's available right here in this community that are good paying jobs that may not require a 4-year degree. Maybe it's a certification, but there's a ton of stuff that these kids can then come back and work here in this community. And that's kind of another part of the goal of WoW, I think, too, right?
Right. We want to show them what's available locally. And that's always changing. I mean, I think last year we talked about the field of X-ray, and there were like 11 pathways within. I just learned that. I didn't know.
Yeah.
So it changes. We all need to stay up on top of that. But yeah, what are those pathways? We need to be looking at interest and aptitude. Really, the success of a person is, are you doing what you like? Are you happy? Are you earning a living?
Yeah.
Right? And you
Not
support your
always in
family.
that order.
Isn't that success? And that could be, being part of a community college. That could be part of taking classes. That could be a degree. That could be certification. That could be 20 and 30 years into an industry and zigzagging.
Yeah, or an apprenticeship. I mean, that's the other thing that I think a lot of people forget, that those are awesome things that you can, participate in that don't necessarily require the education. And you talk to the cha-ching. Figure out what it is you want to do so you spend the least amount of money learning how to do it.
It is, but it is education. Think about the years of apprenticeship. I mean, you're learning with a master. And the coursework is spelled out for you. You know what you have to go over, what you're supposed to check off. And you're working with that master. You know it's going to be 3 years. It's going to be 6 years. You're getting pay increases as you go.
Yeah, that's kind of a win-win. Now, you mentioned earlier that the 7th grade level was something that was mandated by the Commonwealth of Virginia. You actually had, the Secretary of Education for the state of Virginia? He was at WoW this year. That's kind of cool.
Okay, so Atif Carney is the Secretary of Education. He and Dr. Megan Healy, who's the Chief Workforce Advisor, they were here in the spring for our summit. And, of course, I was going to tell them everything that we do.
Yes.
And they came back.
Yeah, so you did a good job of telling them everything.
Well, and it was also Lord Fairfax, the Consortium, saying, come back around. You got to see our 7th graders in action. If they could be here all the time, they would, because they know this is where things are happening. We have a great partnership. Okay, so Atif Carney is a former math teacher.
Ah, I didn't know that.
He was like a child, walking him around. It's a good thing that he was like a child. I mean, he was
absorbing everything.
He was just taking everything in, talking with the exhibitors and with the students. And then Dr. Megan Healy formerly was with the community colleges, and now she's on at cabinet level within the governor's office. She is the chief workforce advisor. They have seen things like this before. In fact, they mentioned they were in Richmond a few weeks back, and there were 13,000 kids that rolled through, and it was neat. But they loved the Worlds of Work because we have structure. We have activities that are job demonstrative. The kids participate in that activity. Then they take their passport and get a stamp as they travel the Worlds of Work. And in addition, we grade our exhibitors.
I know we got an A. We got an A.
Yeah,
Didn't we get an A?
When I say we grade our exhibitors, this is what I mean by that. You all are volunteering your time. So that's salary, you bring equipment, you bring supplies. It's 2.5 days. Is it worth you being there? Do you have an age-appropriate activity? Is it engaging? Are the people at your booth, interacting with the kids? What does the area look like? Are the kids drawn in? All of these things matter to a 7th grader. And so we sent our teachers out with a rubric to grade over 2 days each of the 60-plus exhibitors.
Well, that's what they're good at, so that does make sense.
That's right. Well, and they know that age level, right? Is it age appropriate? Do we need to change it up, bring it down a couple levels when you're looking at some of the science? But for the most part, everybody did a really great job engaging, and their activities absolutely were job demonstrative.
So you were pretty pleased.
I was. I'm going to call out Kingspan. I know I'm looking at the clock. But Kingspan Insulation has been there the last couple of years, and this year it was it was such a simple activity, but it was so good for the kids to see insulation that starts as these little pellets and then it strips. They took an icing bag and they were piping icing onto cookies to show how when the pellets are heated and it goes through and it's pumped out, insulation is pumped out. So they were doing different patterns on the cookies. It sounds very simple, but the kids were understanding that.
Yes.
They had different designs.
Well, and I know a few booths down from us and I can't for the life of me remember who they were, but they had the topography that showed how the terrain can change based on that. Kids were just eating that stuff up.
That's the sandbox, Frederick County Government IT.
Yes.
That and GIS. Mm-hmm.
That was cool.
They love that.
Even us grown-ups like that one.
That is true. And then right next to them was the Virginia Surveyors Association. So they came down from Fairfax. And sometimes it's not just the expert, it's not just the company, but it's the association. Now, they were representing all surveyors. And I was like, well, don't you guys want to be over in construction? I've got you in the wrong world. No, we're IT. Mm-hmm. We want to show where the technology is. And it was a huge hit.
Well, and that's one of the things, too. We ran into a lot of kids who just assume the only thing you can do at a radio station is be a DJ. And they had no idea that, if you're computer oriented, there are things you can do. I mean, it was pretty cool to watch their faces light up when I explained to them that there were about 10 different jobs that you could do at a radio station, because some of them wanted to be on the air and some were like, I don't want to talk on the radio, so I guess I can't work at a radio station. It's like, no, you could do this or this or this or this. And they're like, oh, I want to do that. And yeah, I mean, that was kind of from a vendor perspective, that was the cool part of the day.
Right.
And that was your goal.
Absolutely right. You started a conversation. Now the wheels are turning. And then guess what? They go home and they have conversations with family. I get a phone call Friday morning. Hey, Christine Chris from Lord Fairfax Small Business. I talked to 3 small business owners. All 3 of them had kids that went to WoW. They were amazed. They couldn't stop talking about everything that they saw. Great, Mom and Dad. Keep those lines of communication open. We need to make sure they understand all the possibilities.
What now?
Right?
Yeah.
What are the pathways? Let them explore right now. This is the right age for that.
Awesome. Well, I'll tell you what, let's take a quick break. And then if it's okay with you, we'll bring Dylan into the conversation because he made a whole quiet box and let kids do the news. And this was his first year at WoW. So we can kind of pick his brain a little bit about what he saw. And I know he had a lot of the kids that had no idea. They didn't even think news when they were thinking radio. So that was another perspective. So we'll do that when we come back. Is that cool?
Yes, very good.
Awesome. Well, we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk more with Sally Michaels. She is with the Frederick County EDA. We've been talking at the Worlds of Work Expo. It happened last week for 7th graders. There was 3,000 7th graders over the course of 7 counties in 2 days. So we're going to talk more about that when we come back. I am Janet Michael, and you are listening to The Valley Today. Expecting to hear a commercial? Well, that's kind of what this is. First, I want to thank you for listening to the Valley Today podcast. You're one of many who listen to the show this way. Sometimes it's because our listeners didn't know that if they're away from the radio, they can still listen on our website, via the TuneIn app on their phone, or even on Alexa. We're also available in the Apple Podcast app and the Google Play Music app. Sometimes our listeners are just busy and they want to listen when it fits their schedule. Or maybe it's a guest of the show who want to hear what they sounded like when they were on the radio. We even have a few binge listeners who listen to a week's worth at a time. So if you want those people, your potential customers, to hear your message, your ad could have been here. And the bonus, your commercial isn't restricted to just 30 or 60 seconds. You can take up to 2 minutes to talk to those customers. There's even the opportunity to be the exclusive sponsor of the Valley Today podcast, which gets you on-air mentions at the end of every show. If all of this sounds interesting to you, give me a call at the station, 540-635-4121, or send me an email to janet@theriver953.com. You can also find all of my contact info by searching Janet Michael on our website at theriver953.com. So do one of those things. Get in touch and let me tell you how we can talk to those customers in this podcast every single day. And now, back to the show. Welcome back to the Valley Today. I am your host, Janet Michael, and this segment is brought to you by Valley Health, offering the latest minimally invasive surgery advancements. You can learn more at valleyhealthlink.com/MIS. So we are in the studio for the Valley Business today. Sally Michaels is here from the Frederick County EDA. We have been talking about WOW, the Worlds of Work Expo. It happened last week. 7th graders from 7 counties, and man, were there a lot of them. There were a lot of them.
Not all at one time.
Well, no, that's
It's
true.
over a 2-day period.
But it was still a lot. It was still a lot. But Dylan Nicholls, our news director, is joining us because this was his first year as a vendor / participant at WoW. So we kind of wanted to, I got to give my perspective last year when it was my first year. So we thought we would bring Dylan in. And I do think this conversation is going to go on longer than we have time for on air. So there's probably going to be extra stuff on the podcast at the end of the show. But so, Sally, what do you want to know from Dylan?
Okay. Well, I think we tried to warn you coming in.
Yes, you did. You were very good about that.
But you still, I think, were met with a little bit of surprise. So Dylan came into the world of communication, and Janet and Dylan this year, they decided we're going to show kids not just the history of radio, but we're going to let them read. I really liked your idea of letting them read the
news.
The other thing that he was going to do, I thought was hysterical, but for the naughty kids. But he let them read the news, and they really took a shine to that. They had no idea how much was involved. So please explain what you set up when they approached, because the listeners can't see.
Right.
When they walked into WoW, into the communication world, they came up to your booth and saw what?
I was amazed. I did not think it would be this much of a hit, but what we basically set up is I had made a while ago at home just to test it out and try it for home use, a quiet box. And what that is, in my case, because I built a really, really cheap one for like $30, because we're not exactly rolling in it in the radio industry.
Well, you're not, because you don't have awards, but okay.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Janet Michael makes the big bucks, everybody.
I have the trophies behind it. Go ahead.
It's basically a Rubbermaid container that I put up on its side. I took mattress pad, little eggshell mattress pad things, and taped them to the inside of the box on all sides. I actually used like an acrylic for those. And then you just set up a mic inside on a little mic stand. You cut a hole in the back for the cord to go through. And you just kind of set up and go. I had a little Kindle reader that I was able to actually send documents to. So I set that up in the booth itself. And they could go ahead and read a quick newscast with an intro, an outro, and a story. And for the stories, I feel a little guilty because we used a goofy one. We didn't use actually any news
Real
story.
news.
So it wasn't really an authentic news experience from that perspective, but it was a fun story. It was about a bear that won a fat bear contest in Canada, I think. So they had some fun with that. It was nice to see them smile when they started reading it and started getting into the story. And then at the end of it all, that cord that was coming out of the mic, it was going to my laptop, which was both powering the mic and taking in through a USB connection all of the different audio recordings that they were doing. So at the end of it all, I could go on my laptop, go into some editing software, combine it with a little news jingle, da, 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 and they could hear that intro and then their voice, all their, little voice cracks in there and the high pitch, and they're just really enjoying it. They were really having a great time. And I was surprised how much it took off. The kids were really into it.
Well, the thing that I thought was hilarious is the first kid. It's always hard to get the first one to go and do it. The first one did it. He recorded everything. And then I was standing there when he came out of the box and you put the headphones on so he could hear it. His face completely and totally just lit up like he had never heard the sound of his voice before. And I think that had the biggest impact on a lot of the kids.
And I didn't even realize it because I listen to my voice all day. It didn't seem special to me, but it's true. Like, they don't really hear their voice in high quality, like directly piped through a mic like that at all. And I figured it would be less special with Snapchat and all the stuff that we have today where kids are constantly recording themselves, but they loved it.
No way. Are you kidding? In the world of selfies, right? And Snapchat, and they're all about, let me see how I look. How do I sound? You had it wasn't state of the art. We couldn't take the studio there, but what you had, they were able to see. So the friends that were watching, somebody was reading the news and they got up, put on the headphones. You could see you actually moving those boxes. And so they were watching. How does that happen? How do you edit that?
It was very cool. And the other thing, too, is when you stick your head in that quiet box and you start recording in there, you're like in a world of your own. You've got all the echoes are kind of contained and it's very quiet in there, which is a relief in the expo in general. So But it was cool for the kids. I didn't realize how cool it would be, and I had a great time too. I really did. It was a crazy, crazy couple of days, but it was a fun couple of days too.
Well, and the thing that I thought was kind of interesting is the simplicity of the box. I'm curious to see down the road how many kids went home and thought, I'm going to make me one of those boxes, and I'm going to start practicing now, reading the news or being a DJ or doing any number of these other things. So you probably inspired a lot more kids than you're even giving yourself credit for.
No, I mean, like I had a couple of them say like, wow, I want to do something like this, or this is so cool. And, they're 7th graders, so it's the seed, and it seems really cool to them now. They'll probably change their minds a half dozen times, but it was cool to plant that seed at least and be there at that age.
But it's all about the connecting pathways, because even if they don't choose to go on radio and they build this box, they get a tote with foam and build it at home. You could do a YouTube special on that, by the the Hey kids, here's how I built this. Right? That would be fun. Here's how you can build your own sound booth. But what if they want to go into public speaking? I mean, you could have a future governor coming through.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
And that's what the news recording is all about, is laying emphasis on the right words and practicing your cadence and the speed with which you talk and speaking from your chest rather than just your throat. All those different little skills that they would need to learn for public speaking. It's all built into that little exhibit. So it was a lot of fun.
I taught him all that. I taught Dylan all of that.
You did a great job. And I have to tell you, folks, we talk about the worlds and how there are different things that are surprising. On setup day, when Janet said, come meet Quincy, I was a little nervous because I'm deathly afraid of snakes. And I thought, oh, Lord, what does she have in this box?
That's right.
I would never do that to you.
Yeah.
So Quincy is the quiet box, and he's going
Quincy the quiet box.
You're just going to improve him for next year.
Yeah, maybe add some googly eyes, an antenna or two.
I think we should give him a personality. And then let's talk during the break maybe about a quiet box for all of us in the hospitality room.
Yes.
That we can climb into.
I like that. So we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk for a few more minutes with Sally Michaels. She is with Frederick County EDA. We've been talking about WoW, the worlds of work. Dylan Nicholls is in the studio. And I know we're going to continue this in podcast form afterwards because I want to talk more about that YouTube. I think that's a good idea. And I do want to make sure that we at least let people who can't hear it on the air hear what some of the news stories were that we were bandying about having the kids read, because I think they'll appreciate what we chose not to let them do.
It's true. It's true. Yeah.
So we'll do all that when we come back. I am Janet Michael, and you are listening to The Valley Today.
Hi, this is attorney Suzanne Herskowitz. We've all heard the phrase, where there's a will, there's a way. Take that phrase and apply it to yourself. When you make time to connect your will to your final wishes, you're making sure that what happens is what you want. The state has a will for you, even if you don't have one for yourself. Should you pass without a will or trust, your assets will be divided according to the state's guidelines, not based upon what you or your family wants or needs. When you hire attorney Suzanne Herskowitz, you get me. You'll never meet with an assistant because you and your family are worth my complete and undivided attention. I'm licensed in Virginia, West Virginia, and even Florida. I also focus on business law, real estate, and elder issues. To find me, just look in the Yellow Pages or search Suzanne Herskowitz online. I won't make you spell my last name, but my first name is spelled S-U-Z-A-N, just like it sounds, Suzanne. Let's make sure where there's a will, there's a way applies to you. Visit SuzanneHerskowitz.com and make an appointment.
Welcome back to The Valley Today. I am your host, Janet Michael, and this segment is brought to you by Valley Health Urgent Care. Can't wait to see a doctor? Now you don't have to. You can even check in online and save time at vhurgentcare.com. So we've got about 3 minutes left in the studio. Sally Michaels is still here. Dylan Nicholls, our news director, is also still in the studio with us. Sally is with the Frederick County EDA, part of the Education Consortium. Is that what you called it in the beginning of the show?
Well, there is an LFCC, CTE, Career and Technical Education Consortium.
And they kind of helped put this whole thing together for the worlds of work.
In partnership with City EDA, County EDA, Barrett Machine, and the Regional Commission.
So in the last couple of minutes, and granted, we're going to continue this conversation off air with a few more other details, but in the last 3 minutes, what do you want people to know? Who do you want to know what about what?
Mm-hmm. There's no way to do that in 3 minutes. Okay, so there was a need. Workforce need. We kept hearing that over and over. That's my job, right? Business manager. We need people. We don't have enough people getting trained out of school. All right. So right now we've got health science, construction, and manufacturing. Those are the biggest areas in the next 10 years. They're just booming. What can we do? Well, the General Assembly has the mandate of 7th graders. We've got to have a plan. We married those two up, and we've done this introduction of exploration exploration of careers with the worlds of work. So those are two different audiences. That's our workforce, right? Those are our businesses and the schools. But that's not all. I mean, it's a whole community that puts together. Wow, it's not just anyone. It's not just the schools showing up. If we didn't have the businesses there to come up with these neat little Quincy boxes or icing on the cookies to explain, a process, then we wouldn't have an event. So thank you to our exhibitors. Counselors, parents, it's very important that they are aware of what we're doing as well. We've got a great resource, explorethewow.com. You can get the booklet there. You can watch the video there. That's a great overview. But for parents to understand there's more out there, and we had said a few minutes ago, it's changing. It's always changing. And so school, as Janet and I knew it, and it was different when Dylan went through it, and it's going to be different in another 5 years as far as what are they learning and what is the need. So, like I said, it's way too big in 3 minutes to wrap it up. If you can just remember, it's all about community. It's about our future workforce, all of us coming together to make sure they are educated. They're making good choices because we want them to be successful in whatever they do. And success means that you get up, you go to work, you earn a living, and you're happy with that. Doesn't mean, working for the man and I hate my job. That's not success. Right. So whatever pathway that is, we all should be encouraging that. Whatever skills, education, coursework is required.
Life experience, all of that fun stuff.
All of that adds to it.
Well, and explorethewow.com is the perfect place to go because you can get everything there. If you're a business and you want to participate next year, if you're a volunteer and you just want to come help during the day, if you are a parent and want to know what kind of conversation should you be having with your kids, all of that can be found then at explorethewow.com.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, we are going to wrap up today's show. We're going to continue this conversation, though, so give about a half an hour after the show airs, and the whole conversation will be up on the podcast on our website at theriver953.com. But Sally Michaels, thank you for coming to hang out with me.
Absolutely. Thank you for always being so pleasant and having me back.
Well, see, you do good. Otherwise, I wouldn't. So keep that in mind. When I stop asking you to come back, then you know.
We have a lot to talk about.
We
like
do.
I said, it's community. It's partnership.
Yeah.
We're doing good things.
And Dylan was in the next room anyway, so
I'm just kind of a throw on and add in.
Yeah, you're a seat filler. So Dylan, Dylan will be back tomorrow at noon. I'll be back, at 12:30. He's my opening act. So I hope you'll tune back in tomorrow.
Dylan, seat filler, Nicholls. Yep.
Yeah, at 12:30 tomorrow for a brand new episode of The Valley Today.
There's always more to the story. At the River 95.3, that's what our new podcast, Another Look, offers. A deeper look into the news stories you hear about every week. I'm Dylan Nicholls, news director at the River 95.3. Join Janet Michael from The Valley Today and I as we review news from our area, as well as some odd news stories from around the country. You can find Another Look on theriver953.com and listen to our take on the news whenever, wherever. Another Look offering you a weekend review with a twist. You can find a new one every Friday in the Apple Podcast app, in the Google Play Music app, or online at theriver953.com.
Welcome back to the Valley Today. After the show, we are still in the studio, and as promised on air, we were going to continue this conversation when our time ran out over the airwaves. So Sally Michaels is still here from the Frederick County EDA. Dylan Nicholls, our news director, is still in the studio with us as well. And we had a ton of other things that we want to talk about. Some of it not so appropriate maybe for airtime. We didn't want to offend anybody. So I'm going to start with Dylan because we talked during the show about what you had the kids do. You had them read these news snippets. Now, you chose a funny story ultimately for the kids to read, but that wasn't what we were thinking of initially, now was it?
Yeah. I mean, we thought as a joke at first. I don't know if I ever was seriously considering
I was. I was totally considering it.
See, she's been to WoW a few times.
Yeah.
So she's her patience level has gone down at this point. Well, as the news director, I get a lot of press releases from a lot of organizations, and one of those organizations is the Virginia State Police, and one of the press releases I get is Amber Alerts and the like. And so we were thinking about maybe reading a few tailor-made with their names included in the middle. You could just add a little blank wherever you want, just to mess with the kids a little bit. But
that they've been abducted or any number of things.
Seemed inappropriate though. The more we bandied it around a little bit, and so we landed on just a dumb news story that I used in I do a morning show segment with Randy Woodward called Weird Wide Web, and we just do weird stories from across the web there. And there was a story I'd found a while ago about a bear that won a fat bear contest up in Canada. Meanwhile, in Canada, right? And so I went ahead and used that because it's kind of age-appropriate humor, and a couple of kids got a giggle out of it, and some of them just had like a glazed look because they were about to read, and they were just terrified in general, and it was really funny to watch kids because this is a trick you can fall into sometimes if you're just reading for a long period of time. But some kids got to a point in the newscast where they weren't even paying attention to what they were reading. They were just reading it word by word as it came along because they were so nervous about how they sounded. So they completely ignored the content, and they would say like, sentences like the fabulous flabby bear and just like look like panic stricken and not register with them at all. So that was really funny. I think it was a good story we landed on overall.
Well, and I think the kids really enjoyed it. I mean, and Sally, you and I had joked, and I have to say, I have to give you a quick shout out because I give you a shout out almost every single Friday night when Dylan and I do our Another Look podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Because
yeah,
Sally is, so now if you listen to the Another Look podcast and you hear me reference, okay, here's my dumb news story. Thank you, Sally, because this one is hilarious. This is actually the Sally that sends me those dumb news stories.
Here, and I thought I was, doing
see,
that secretly.
you're already famous and didn't, I never say your last name or where you're from because I didn't want to get you into too much trouble, but now we've blown that off the wind.
When I can't fall back asleep. I'm
like,
searching for crazy, really weird stories.
Yes, Dylan yelled at me that I was being a slacker because I'm not finding them on my own anymore. I just said that I'm working smarter, not harder, and you're sending them to me.
I mean,
you're delegating,
When you're up at 2 and 3 and 4 in the morning and you come across a weird story, sometimes you gotta get it.
Yeah,
because you can't scroll back and find it.
Yeah, so you gotta send it in the moment.
Send it off. Yeah, 4 a.m. weird news. I like it.
Yeah, but I don't send you that early.
No. Well, it doesn't matter. I mean.
You're awake too?
Yeah. If not, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. But I mean, what Dylan was saying about working with the kids one-on-one, getting them in, that's kind of, in a nutshell, what you want vendors at WoW to do. You want these kids to be able to interact.
Absolutely. It has to be job demonstrative. If we're not showing them what is possible here locally, then you're really just setting up a booth with pamphlets. And that's fine to ask questions, but they're not getting to learn, and it's not going to stick in their brain. I touched this, I felt the weight of something, or I put together a puzzle, or I smelled something horrible, like the body parts over at Health Science, right? There's a definite odor. They have to use the 5 senses to really understand what the job is. So we do ask our exhibitors to have something that is job demonstrative. We also want you to have folks there that are able to interact with 7th graders. It's a different animal.
Yes.
To come down on the 7th grade level, but also, I mean, they're a little cheeky, right?
Yeah.
You got to have a little bit of humor and patience. So you have to be able to interact with the kids. You want to hold their interest. So we do grade them. I think I talked about this earlier, the exhibitor rubric. I send the teachers around on day 2, and they watch that interaction all day. Are you drawing kids in? What does your booth look like? Do you have enough there for 10 of them to do the activity? Is it one-on-one? Is it getting backed up? I know it sounds harsh, but
I'm smiling because I wasn't there. You said you send them around on day 2 to do the grading, and I wasn't there. So no matter what grade y'all got, that's on you. I didn't have anything. It would have been better if I'd been there.
See, we actually, I feel pretty good about the grading because we actually drew a teacher in. We had a teacher come up and say, "I want to do a newscast." You did that on
Wednesday. I remember was that
Wednesday
too. Yeah, that was Wednesday. She said, "I'm a teacher. Is it okay if I do one of these?" Yeah.
And
oh
it was
my gosh,
very
we love that. That's why the teachers and the counselors go, because they don't know either about everything that's out there. So now they've experienced it. 2 things. They can either talk about it, right, in the classroom or outside of the classroom on the field if they're a coach, or they're going to call you up and say, I really liked this. I want to bring a class in for a field trip to do it on site.
Well, and see, she was a science teacher. And so I was saying to her, like, come on, decibel levels, wavelengths, frequencies, pitch. I mean, that's what we do. So it'd be very cool to have kids record their own voice and to look at all that stuff, for sure.
Well, and so there is some prep work that's done on the front end with the students and the teachers before they get to WoW, right? They have to have had at least some semblance of a conversation. What happens before WoW actually takes place in the classroom?
Okay, so everybody is different. We have 7 districts. They all do it a little bit differently. I know that Admiral Byrd and Ayler, they have counselors go into the classroom. It's like a half-day session of, I'm coming in to introduce what is WoW, the worlds, plural, worlds of work. These are the worlds you're going to be introduced to. What do you think you might see there? Let's go over some of what those jobs are. They do prep work, and it could be as simple as, pulling a job description saying, where do you think this belongs, in what world? Because we had mentioned earlier about the surveyors. You think,
Yeah.
oh, they're in construction, but actually that's IT.
IT.
There's a lot of crossover. And kids, the hot word is STEM and IT, right? It's a sexy thing. They're all attracted to it. So we want to make sure they understand that innovation is in construction. Innovation is in manufacturing. So everybody's different, but I can speak just for Ayler and Bird because I've talked to those teachers. They do prep work. We provide the booklet, and they either do something with the booklet or they send it home. Hopefully it gets to mom and dad. If it doesn't get to mom and dad, they can get it online at explorethewow.com. But they're doing pre-work and sometimes post-work after they get back. They have that expectation of what they're going to see. And we greet them on the bus. I think we scare them sometimes because we, hello, welcome to WoW. And when you get off the bus, you get all these goodies, and they're overwhelmed when they walk in that arena, and then they get changed to the other side. It's huge.
Yeah.
And they're, oh, you mean I can walk, like I'm allowed to go over here? Yes, you have free reign, just don't leave the walls. You can't go outside. We do have a perimeter. So they're a little overwhelmed. So I want to hear post, all right, what did you see? What changed? Did you get an idea of something that maybe you hadn't thought of before? And then this year, we can maybe talk about the 10th grade survey that we're going to be doing.
Well, and I wanted the reason that I ask you that is because I know Dylan kept these recordings of the students that did all of the different. And how many do you think you recorded over the course of 2 days?
Ooh, that's hard to tell. I don't know.
3,000?
I know that there
Not
were
quite 3,000.
I know there was always a line. Every time when I was there on Wednesday, every time I turned around, there were at least 5 or 6 kids standing around. I know some of them just wanted to see their friends do it and didn't necessarily want to do it themselves, but I think you got a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, maybe 24, something like that. It's really hard to tell because, like you said, there's a huge line. There's a lot of kids physically there, but you can only get to so many, which is another thing we can work on for next year, too. Yeah.
But you kept those recordings, so now you're going to be able to share those with Sally, who's then going to be able to share them, hopefully, with the teachers and the students themselves, and then there's more post work that they can do.
Sure.
That reminds them, oh, I remember that. I really want to do that.
Oh, I know the schools will want to have it. And if we could put it together somehow
No,
in a presentation, I think that would be hilarious. Again, in the age of selfie, look at me, they're going to want to hear, oh, listen for me.
Yeah.
And they honestly, they all pretty much read the same story. I think I mixed it up a little bit, so they usually chose between 2 different stories. But for the most part, they read the Fat Bear story. So what we could do is we could take the entire Fat Bear story with different kids telling different portions of it and string along into one big, nice, long story with all these multiple voices in it. And that could be really cool.
Yeah. Well, and you're right. I mean, and we touched on this a little bit when we were on the air. When the kids walked up to the booth, I would ask them, so if you could work at a radio station, what job would you want? 90% of them said, I want to be the DJ. I want to be the person who talks on the radio. And sometimes somebody would say, I want to be the person that picks the songs. But those were pretty much the only 2 options. These kids had no idea that there's a sound engineer involved, that there's a news director, that you can be on the air and do what I do, which is interview, not so much a DJ in the traditional sense, that we've got to have, somebody who runs our website and the social media. They were fascinated with the fact that I got paid to be on Twitter for the radio station. And then I talked to some and said, or you could be in sales. You could want to help businesses get traffic in the door. Hannah, our sales rep, was there for a couple hours on Wednesday. And anybody that said, wait, I want to write commercials and I want to sell to businesses, she would grab them, take them over to the communications banner, and they all took selfies together.
Oh, awesome.
Because they were
really
just
cool.
tickled. Yeah. So
Really
I've got
cool.
all of those selfies. I think she got their first names. I think their name badges are in almost all of them, so we can match those up. But yeah, they really were into all the different facets once they realized that more than one person works at a radio station.
Right. You opened up a world to them. They had no idea. So that is the exact purpose of what the Worlds of Work is.
So we got an A, Dylan.
We got an A.
I think we got an A++.
You know what I was just thinking of? I would love to set up an exhibit where Lonnie Hill, who does the afternoon traffic jam, where he helps kids make liners for themselves. Because liners are like 15 seconds or so, or 7 seconds, whatever, just of the DJ's name. And what he does is he goes on YouTube and he takes like famous movie clips or like quotes from movies or anything like that that he loves, and he puts it with his name.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are self-deprecating, like...
Oh, yeah, it's the one with the Minions is one of my favorite ones. Because the guy will come on and say, it's Lonnie Hill. And you hear the Minions going, who? I love that one. That was
the
one of my
afternoon
favorite
traffic
ones.
jam. Yeah, he makes all sorts of cool, crazy, creative ones, and it would be awesome if he could grab like a few clips from YouTube and just have the kids say into a mic like it's Bobby Smith, and then make their own liners.
And we still have all the ones from last year, because last year we were even more rudimentary than we were this year. So we are stepping up our game with each passing year. But they just said into my phone, hi, this is Dylan Nicholls. I'm a 7th grader at Robert E. Ayler Middle School, and you're listening to the River 95.3. So we had them all record that. And then we played those liners on the air throughout the whole following week so that the kids could hear themselves or the parents, because in a lot of cases, that's what we heard. My parents listened to you. So that was kind of cool. But tell me about the 10th graders.
Okay, so 10th grade. Why do I bring them up? They were the first 7th grade group to come through WoW 4 years ago. So now they're at the age we want to know, do you remember going on a field trip to WoW? It would have been over at the Sportsplex. It was called the Worlds of Work. You would have seen whatever. Did you do any activities or, see anything that changed your course of study? Did you... right now, they've got, I'm in agriculture, or I'm taking manufacturing, or I'm doing health science. Did they change track? We want to know, what was it? What is it now? What courses? Did you do any volunteer work? Did you take any jobs, internships, apprenticeship? We just want to find out, did it affect them in any way?
So far.
Well, yes, so far is the key. 10th grade, because, this is the time when they go back and revisit. So the 7th graders have to make the plan, and then in 10th grade, they are supposed to go back and revisit that plan and make sure it doesn't need any tweaking.
Well, yeah, because by 11th grade, they're picking colleges, and they're deciding on majors to a certain degree, and they're trying to decide, okay, what am I going to do when I graduate in 2 years? Is it go directly into the workforce? Is it apprenticeship? Is it community college? Is it 4-year college? Is it certifications in a certain line of work? Did I cover all of them? I think I got all of them.
You did. And I was going to...
Yay, Guy Curtis. He has drilled that into my brain for so many years now.
That's right. What's the pathway? What's right for me? Do I like this? Am I interested in it? Do I have the aptitude for it? And that's going to change in a few years. Everybody zigzags, and you move on. You build on your experiences. I always tell kids that it's a pathway.
Yeah.
It's, you take every single job and life experience, and you're going to be surprised 20 years later. Oh, I remember I used to do that, and this has something to do with this now.
Yeah. Well, and people are always amazed when they come in, when I have guests that have not been on the show before. I've never done radio before. I'd sold radio. It was a radio ad sales rep, so I had gone out and been the one like Hannah selling commercials. But aside from being the guest of somebody, when Nikki would come and do the Valley Business Today, when Mario was here hosting the show, being a guest was the only experience I had. And here I am 2.5, almost 3 years in now as the host with no prior being a host. I didn't know how to work any of this equipment. I didn't know anything about WavePad. I didn't have any of that background. And now here I am having the time of my life almost every single day. I say almost because, there are some days. But that's the thing that you talk to the kids about. You say, so what do you enjoy doing? And what can we then do to find you a job in that particular area? Because we all, as parents, and you know this, we all want our kids to be happy. Ideally, we want them to be happy, make money, and not live at home anymore. But we still want them to be happy, and trying to guide them is the key.
Okay, I'm going to talk about my son. I do this every once in a while, but I'm going to bring this up again because it happened again. Since, I guess, September. So the last 2 months, this has happened twice. I don't know what it is on 81. Maybe that's the problem. Driving down 81, and he just bends over, he's cramped up in his stomach, and he says, Mom, I don't want to go to college. What am I going to do? And I'm thinking, it's okay, buddy. Why is he doing this right now? Well, he's 11th grade. What's everybody doing?
Yeah.
They're all talking about college. And I'm telling him, that's okay. It is okay to not know, and you don't have to go to college right away. Let's figure out what you want to do, what you're interested in, and what you're good at. Because you think you're going to invent a skateboard shoe.
Yeah, you think you're going to be the next. Yeah.
But let's build you up, maybe, to that. So twice now that's happened, and it bothers me. It hurts me as a mother to see him hunched over.
And so stressed. Yeah.
Stressed out about college and picking college. Okay, college is many things. We go to college to learn about the stations they have up there. We use that college for meetings. You can also use that college to get a degree and that community college to get a certification. Let's figure it out.
Yeah, because the last thing you want them to do is go to college, rack up a massive amount of debt for themselves and for you, only to find out that there's something else that they want to do, and they're not going to, I mean, I don't want to say they're not going to use any of that 4-year education, but in a lot of cases, they don't use enough of it that they couldn't have just taken some classes at Lord Fairfax or shadowed or apprenticeship or any of those kinds of things and gotten the same amount of education that they can actually put right away to use.
Yeah, everybody's pathway is different, really. So college is not a dirty word. I don't want anybody saying that because it means many things.
Yeah, I made my kid go to college, but he didn't want to go. But I made him. And I'm one of those parents now. I mean, Josh loved baseball. Anybody who listens to the show knows I talk about Josh all the time. He is a pitching coach. He works. So he went to college. He studied health science. So he at least is able to use some of what he learned at college as far as how the muscles work and, I don't know, all that stuff. I used to say that it was medical school, but everybody knew that Bridgewater was not a medical school. But that's what I said anyway, because it sounded really cool.
Yeah.
So he uses some of it, but he loved baseball. He loved baseball from the minute he could pick up a bat. And he was a pitcher. He was a left-handed pitcher. He is doing what he loves. The college helped. I probably could have gotten away with not nearly as much debt as he's in and as we're in, and he could have still done something he loves, and he loves what he does now for a living.
Good. That's a great example.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the exploration is key there, too. I think that's a big part of what college is all about. But that's what the Worlds of Work Expo is about, too, is exploring early and often. And that's how you basically find out where you're going to end up landing is by examining every launch pad and checking it out. Because I went to college. I was
just going to say, you've got another one of those experiences.
Yeah, I went to JMU and I started out thinking to myself, and it's funny because I guess I didn't really listen to myself too much because I knew through high school I love writing, I love, English, all that stuff. But going into college, I was like, I really want to be a business major. I want to be a small business owner. And it was all very vague and exciting and thrilling in my head. But then you actually get those classes and realize financial accounting is awful. And who wants to do that for the rest of their life? And this is not for me. I don't want to be sitting in a cubicle someday and not... And so I ended up switching, and I was lucky enough because I finally had the conversation with myself and switched at just the right point after 2 years of business school where I was able to still do the other major, and I switched from a business major to an English major, and that got me launched on this whole communications pathway that led me to this job right here. And when I graduated, I had no idea I was going to end up on radio.
No. And you had no experience whatsoever on the radio until you applied to be the Saturday guy. Well, that's not exactly what he applied for, but I'm still bitter about that because when we originally hired Dylan, he was supposed to belong to me. That was the whole, almost a year ago.
This is Janet's story.
Yeah, almost a year ago. He was supposed to belong to me. He was going to be my lackey.
You don't have your own staff? I don't understand.
See,
so weird.
Thank you.
So
yes,
weird, huh?
I'm totally sending this to Andrew as an air check. Yeah, you get it. Yeah, he was supposed to belong to me, and I was supposed to be able to say, I want you to do this for me, and this for me, and this for me, and now you can go take a break for 5 minutes, but then come back and do this and this and this for me. And now he's news director.
Thank God that didn't work out that way. I am free. No, but it's a crazy, you never know where it's going to take you. It's a crazy path, and you just honestly have to listen to yourself and be honest with yourself, and it's going to sound like really bad, but the one piece of advice I would give to everyone too is don't worry about money. Worry about self-fulfillment. That's it. Because honestly, graduating from JMU with a business degree and then ending up in business, they guarantee you're going to get a salary around medium range of like $50,000 or something. 80% of students get that, and that's fantastic. I would have been the most miserable little guy making $50,000 every single day, stuck in that cubicle, cranking out the numbers or doing whatever I was doing. Because it wasn't for me, and it was all about listening to myself and realizing that no, you do need like a little bit of a creative outlet. No, you do like communicating. You do like public speaking. You enjoy all that stuff, and you need to honor that and follow the path.
You like public speaking? What's wrong with you?
I know.
He says public speaking. He's talking into a microphone to a wall. That's that's public speaking. So come on.
No, it's true. I see parades in my future. I'm going to do the fireman's parade next to Apple Blossom.
I think he sees parades in his head when he's talking into the mic. I think that's part of the problem. But yeah, and as parents, that's what. Try not to. I projected. I didn't go to college. So by God, Josh was going to college. I didn't care if he wanted to go. I didn't care if he needed to go. I didn't care if I couldn't afford it. He was going to college because I didn't, and he was going to do that for me. Thankfully, it all kind of worked out. But again, you mentioned the money. I mean, here's a kid who just got his own studio apartment, so he's living on his own. He's making $36,000 a year, which most people would go, oh, that's all. But for a single guy in a studio apartment who loves what he does every day, that is more than enough than what he needs. And I think sometimes we as parents also put that money aspect on it. Well, you got to make, at least this much money. And money amounts mean different things to different people depending on their lifestyle, in addition to doing what they love.
Well, I mean, if you're making money in a field you're not passionate about, then I think you're going to level out.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to make a really comfortable median income for a long time. But if you're, even if it's not a really lucrative field, if you're passionate about it, you're going to grow leaps and bounds in that field and do fantastic. And you're going to feel a sort of, I don't know if spiritual growth's the right word but that sense of fulfillment. And pretty soon, the money doesn't really matter as much as that, first of all. But then, if you're really passionate about what you're doing, you're going to succeed so much more in that industry than you would anywhere else. And I think it's possible you can break through that median income you would have made being miserable somewhere else.
So look.
There's your millennial quote for the week.
Yeah.
Don't worry so much about money, worry about fulfillment.
Yeah. He looks like a 7th grader.
That is pretty millennial, all right?
Look at that. See, this is the impact that, this is our 7th grader here.
See, I'm waiting for that post-work economy, too,
Is
where the government just hands you $20,000 to be a consumer every year. I'm waiting for that. I might move to California. I don't know.
I came in here saying the same thing. I'm a Gen X.
Oh,
And I
okay.
said, define success. What is success? Are you happy at what you do? Are you able to provide an income, and support your family? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you have to be on air and in magazines. Some people need that.
No. I married a husband with a job. That was pretty much all I needed to do to be able to have fun every day doing all these other things. Because, you and I both know you don't make any, we joked earlier, but you don't make any money in radio. You certainly don't make any money in community radio, which is one of the things that I love. I would not do what I do for, and as tacky as this may sound, for an iHeart. I would not work at Q102. I probably wouldn't work at Wink anymore because I like this locally owned, community oriented. Andrew wants us to be involved in the community. We're sleeping on a school bus, collecting food for people who can't eat in our community. That's what I want to be a part of. I don't want to be the next John Boy and Billy. I don't want to be, I wouldn't mind to be the next Katie Couric, but that's a whole other thing. But that's... Yeah, do what you love and everything else will fall in place, or just marry a husband with a job who's willing to let you go do what you love.
Both those things.
Yeah.
I got to find me a husband.
Yes.
That's the next segment of the Valley Today.
Yes. That's a whole another show. We got to get Billy a girlfriend.
No, that's not true. You have to find your own happiness first. Now, we are going to cut right through this.
Boom. Boom.
No, it sounds like you're on your way. You have to make a living. And when you said, I don't know, is it spiritual? I used to do the Triskel, the Irish symbol, the swirls, the 3 of them.
Oh, yeah.
So it's Father, Son, Holy Spirit. It's mental, physical, and spiritual health, all 3 together. You've got to have all of that. And I'll tell you, the businesses I work with, and they say it straight out to these kids that go on the tours and to the teachers. If you don't have your life together when you walk through the door of my shop, then you're going to fail. You cannot focus on a job if you don't have money to pay the rent,
Yeah.
put new tires on the car, I got to, pay for somebody's field trip, I got to get groceries. If you don't have that together, then you're never going to make it in your job. So I think what we're talking about here, if there's the Triskel, the 3, right, the trifecta, then you have to have it all together to be successful, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about making a living. Mm-hmm. So we can call it a career. It's making a living,
Yeah. It's having a life,
right?
a productive life. Yeah.
That's true.
This got really deep.
I know. I think we
Yeah,
should just
wow.
stop now. I think we've gone. Yeah. I need more coffee.
Do we not have time for my spoken word poetry? None of that?
Sally looking at you like, oh, Lord. She has no idea. I should have warned her before I brought you into the studio. We're going to wrap up this hokey pokey version of the Valley Today After Show. We've been talking with Sally Michaels with the Frederick County EDA. And parents, if you're out there and you're listening, just have the conversation with your kids. Listen. The key is listen. Don't do what I do and say, this is what you're going to do, and then have them nod their head. Say, what do you like? What are you good at? Now let's figure out together where you can go and what you can do with that. Because you could end up being a news director.
Ta-da!
Yeah, and that's all for today's show.